Denim Couch Podcast. Ooh, whoa, ooh, whoa.
The 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with Steph with an F.
Hi guys, welcome to the Denim Couch Podcast, where we chill on this denim couch and talk about the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm Stephanie Tanner. Welcome. Hey guys, it's Stephanie Tanner with the Denim Couch Podcast, and today's episode is with Sam Palmer. And Sam is awesome. Sam's always been very hilarious and a good family friend. Thank you, Sam, for doing this interview. I am really excited. We are on our 4th episode of the 80s. And if you can't tell by now, I get really excited about the 80s. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy this episode and all the crazy shenanigans and stories that Sam has to share with us. This week has been a very interesting week, probably for everyone. I think my only message this week is a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I'm always looking for peace in my life and trying to find peace and trying to bring peace into my life when I do not feel it. That's just how I like to live. I like to live more of a peaceful lifestyle, and I don't like my mind clouded with lots of negative energy and negative thoughts. And yeah, this week's been a good one. I have had some really cool discussions with people and have talked a lot about current issues with many people with lots of different viewpoints, and that's been really fun. And the best part, I think, about discussion is that I think it needs to happen, and I think it needs to happen so that we can learn to understand each other. I just feel like it's an accomplishment when I get to understand where someone's coming from. We all come from different families and different viewpoints, and we're all very different people, and we have to keep that in mind. And I think when we keep that in mind and are more understanding and looking to connect with our fellow brother, fellow sister, then we are able to build bridges rather than create walls, and we're able to come together and connect. As human beings, we can always try to be understanding and loving, and we can always send the message of love rather than hate, and love will get us way further than hate will. I like to think of the golden rule, which is the principle of treating others as oneself would wish to be treated. In Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote, he's stating that love is the only thing that can drive out hate. And I just think it's important that we rediscover the goodness in each and every human heart. And only in that spirit are we able to connect and build bridges and to drive out hate. And those are my thoughts for this week. I think that sums up my thoughts on everything that's going on. And with that, I would love to just dive into Sam's interview. He cracks me up, and I had such a great time interviewing him. So I hope you enjoy. How common was your name in the 80s?
So my name was more common with a dog in the 80s than it was with a human. And so it was fairly common, but just not for humans.
What was life like in the 80s?
You know, it was really fun. I grew up the youngest of 5 boys, so we had a lot of freedom. My parents had already been through the ringer with 4 older boys. And lots of freedom, lots of room to roam, and it was just carefree. No cell phones. Be home, for dinner if you're hungry. If you're not, you don't get to eat. It was wild. It was, you had second families you'd stay at, and they treated you like their own if you needed a spanking or not. And it was just awesome. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was really a neat time to grow up. We even had good music. We listened to the hair bands, man. Def Leppard and Loverboy, and just went to some of my first concerts back then with some of the bands that were the Outfield, and just good music. They're now on the oldies stations, and they're making some remakes, and the kids actually like them. John Cougar, man, it was awesome. The hair band era was Guns N' Roses. It was fun. Good music. Lots of dances, like at the fairgrounds pavilion and stuff. Kids put on their own dances, and neat time.
What did you do for fun in the 80s?
Well, I did a lot of things for fun. I was a hunting fool. Most of it involved a lot of friends and a lot of alcohol. All through from like my 8th grade year on, it was pretty wild. We did lots of beer parties and lots of times in the woods. So, we grew up with kind of a free range, and we took advantage of it. Fortunately, in our class, nobody ever got hurt, but we did a lot of stupid things that are totally like jailable now. We had a couple of guys' houses whose parents seemed to be gone like all the time. It was one of the two houses, or we went to the woods, and then even at that age, we were fairly responsible. Nobody took off. If they stayed up there and drank, they generally spent the night. And like I said, nobody ever got in a wreck of any of the classes above or below me that showed up. And nobody ever got like a drunk driving ticket or injured or hurt anybody else. And it was just always just a good time. Yeah, we lucked out.
What were some popular activities?
So a lot of the parents that I grew up with, a lot of them, like the families that get together and play cards like pinochle or hearts or spades and do things like that. A few of them belonged to like the golf club, and that's why they were like always gone on the weekends at golf tournaments, and that's why we'd use their houses. But it seemed like families of friends and family, they did more things together back in those days. It was more cohesive, and then the kids would take off and go do their thing while the parents were playing cards or watching a movie or doing something like that together. So I do kind of miss that, and I notice that even in my own self, that the parents of the kids as friends just don't get together like they used to. But I do remember like my folks and 2 or 3 other, couples, they'd get together and play pinochle or hearts or spades. And they did it once a week or once every couple weeks. And it was just kind of fun. And then us kids would, take off and go do our thing and then come back. So, yeah, I do kind of miss that.
Do you have any favorite memories from the 80s?
Yeah, I got to work a lot. I got to work in fire, so I got paid like to play with fire, and it was like the best ever. But I got to travel a lot with my job and see lots of country, from Montana to Nevada. I got to work on the Yellowstone fires, which were some of the biggest in the nation at that time. I spent like 3 months over in the Yellowstone country and St. Anthony, Idaho, and Swan Valley, and work on those fires. It was with a lot of really good friends, and met some neat people along the way. Some lifelong friends that from the fire camps. We were there for so long, so a lot of that, and then some of the relationships we forged. We lived together almost like a military family. So even at that, some of the kids that were on our fire crew, we still talk, fairly regularly and relive old times and memories. So back in the 80s was, just that cohesive group. In fact, I was at the coast this weekend, and we brought some of those back up of some of the fun we had, and making phone calls and getting on the radio and making inappropriate statements, then signing off with somebody else's name. And, that kind of throwing your friends under the bus kind of a deal. So just lots of fun that way, and the relationships forged that were lifelong. So got to experience some history, and be a part of it. So it was pretty neat.
What was the fashion like back in the 80s?
Big hair and big combs in your back pocket. So yeah, hash jeans were in phase. 501 button fly 501s were in, and big combs and big hair. And it was just absolutely hilarious when you look back and just see those pictures of some of the your classmates and your friends when they had hair, and they had a lot of it. But yeah, it was definitely the style, hash jeans and button fly 501s, and Izod shirt with the collar flipped up. So I wore shoulder length, and I put a wave in my mullet. You betcha. Oh. You betcha. Man, I put a wave in my mullet. You betcha.
What made you happy back then?
I think what brought me happiness was the fact that I was pretty carefree. I grew up the youngest of five, where we were pretty poor, and I made enough money to do whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to do it. And oftentimes took my friends and footed the whole bill to go on ski vacations, took two friends to Hawaii for a month. The place we stayed was like in a motel room, but people own them like a condo. And I just rented one for a month and didn't even know when we got there. We just jumped, just one day we were talking, it's like, let's go to Hawaii. Never been there. And I mean, we drove to Portland, got on an airplane. I bought tickets. We got on the airplane. We went, landed, got the newspaper, looked up for a place to stay. This place was for rent for a month. We jumped on it, and we for about a week and a half, we met these Japanese guys. They didn't speak any English, speaking Japanese, and we started running around together, and we had the best time ever. And I walked into 7-Eleven, I bought a pack of cigars, and this Japanese guy, I can still remember it like it was yesterday. He looks at me and he goes, Oh, John Wayne! And he grabs into that cigar and he bites into it, and it just crumbled in his mouth, and he had to start spitting. And we drank and partied for like a week and a half with these guys who didn't speak any of the same language, and just had a hoot. It was. I just lived life to its fullest until I settled down. So I learned to be a giver that way. So it was pretty neat. Yeah, it was all good. So yeah, I learned to be a giver because I never had anything growing up, and so and I'm still that way. I get a lot of pleasure out of giving, and it just brings me joy to be able to help.
How would you compare your childhood or teenage years to today's kids?
What we did would land you in prison compared to what they do now. Yeah, or today they'd go to prison compared to what we did. I mean, we took off on motorbikes and rode on the highways, the streets, and just we were allowed to live and live life to its fullest. Nowadays, it seems like everything's constrained and people judge you, and they're looking to get you, and just they don't let kids be kids anymore. They have to be just restrained, and it kind of saddens me. You see families, like Darb and her boys. She lets them be boys and lets them run and have fun and get into messes and stuff. Nowadays, you're not allowed to let your kid get dirty or crawl on the carpet or anything like that, or go off by yourself. When I was 6 and 7 years old, I had a .22, and we headed for the woods and walk through town carrying guns. Boy, now the police would be drawing guns on you and treating you like a felon. So we were allowed to just roam and live, and that's probably why some of the laws are the way they are now. But we just had freedom, and we used it, and it was just really, really fun.
What brings you peace or calmness during hard times?
Well, I've had more than a couple of near-death experiences throughout the years. And so I found spirituality. I found Christ. I'm a religious man now, and base a lot of my beliefs on that, and that's part of my giving, and I feel like I have a higher purpose and a prayer life and a ministry, and that just helps me get through day to day and help my friends get through day to day, and being a county commissioner now, plus a nurse, plus seeing so much tragedy through the years, it's really ground on me, and I just need that higher power to keep me sane. So that's where I landed.
Isn't Sam just so fun? I, once again, want to thank him for doing this, and I hope you guys are enjoying the 80s. I love the 80s. I think they would have been so fun to grow up in the 80s listening to all the music that is now on the classic stations and in so many movies. I hope you guys all have a wonderful week. I hope you can find peace and connection and love in your lives. And just as Ali talked about last week, focusing on the little things and the little things that are happening around you. There's so many good things in this world. There are so many good people in this world. Most people want the best for others. So with that, I hope you all have a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.
Wait. You can't miss the embarrassing story of the week. No. Okay. It's that time. It's Steph with an F's embarrassing story of the week.
Okay, so this week's embarrassing story. I don't know how many details I should really give, but let's just say it was a wild week with the kid. I don't know why there's weeks like this, and I think this has been the worst. It was like just the danger zone week where I could not, for the life of me, keep all the dangerous things away from my kid. And so we went to my parents' house for a little while, and they have rat traps and I guess mice traps and stairs and a few wonderful things at their house. And we may or may not have ran into a few traps. I had to swat a trap out of my son's hands. I saved his life. He may have got into some mice goo, which we sat for a while and washed our hands for 10 or so minutes, and had some mishaps on the stairs. And then when I thought all of this would be over with because we're in a more baby-proofed home, we did in fact find ourselves almost burning our hands with a device. So, some weeks are chill and other weeks are not. But luckily we made it out unscathed, and I think this was just an embarrassing week as a mother this week. And luckily no damage was done. All crises were avoided. But I can't believe how many random crazy things happened this week. All right. Well, have a wonderful week. Talk to you next time. Bye.
If you came here for mental health help, please go visit your doctor. If you're looking for some mental health tips, Dr. Daniel Amen is someone I follow. I love what he has to say and offer. I think his website is brainhealthassessment.com, and he just has some awesome checklist items that go over brain health, habits that you should be doing to have better brain health. I want to say there's like 5 to 10 items, and if you have those, if you're working on those habits and trying to improve them to improve your brain health, you'll also improve your happiness level, because brain health equals mental health. So keep your brains happy and healthy, And check out Dr. Daniel Amen. This is not sponsored. I just really like what he has to say, and I think it's really beneficial. I think it can help a lot of people. It's actually very matter of fact, kind of obvious, but yeah, we neglect so many of these habits daily. And I do feel like, if you're feeling unhappy, that may be one of the reasons you're unhappy, because you're neglecting your brain health, which is also your mental health. And yeah, trying to improve these habits could really help. So check him out. If you have any stories from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, please get in contact with me. Let's chat. I want nothing more than to chat about the past. I want nothing more than to chat about the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you have any specific questions that I'm not asking that you would like to know about these eras while interviewing these people, please let me know. I would love some advice, and I would love your input. So, what would you guys like to know?